There's a truth that begins to resonate with us as we grow older, a simple yet profound realization: life doesn't need to be complicated in order to be meaningful. For so many of us, especially as we step into the later years of our lives, we find ourselves looking back at the years we've lived, at the choices we've made, the paths we've taken, and the possessions we've accumulated. It's easy to get swept up in the hustle and bustle of life, to believe that the pursuit of more, the more we do, the more we achieve, the more we own, somehow equates to fulfillment. But when we pause, when we really take a moment to reflect, we often find that the more we accumulate, the more weighed down we feel. It's a paradox of modern life, isn't it? We're told that success, happiness, and even security come from accumulating more, from having more things, more experiences, more achievements. Yet, as the years pass, we begin to feel the heaviness of all those acquisitions. The constant striving for more can leave us feeling exhausted, empty, and disconnected from what really matters. It's in these quiet moments of reflection that the truth begins to unfold. Happiness does not lie in the accumulation of more, it lies in simplicity. As we enter the golden years of our lives, this truth becomes even clearer. The pursuit of external achievements begins to lose its shine. We may have spent decades building careers, raising families, acquiring material possessions, and chasing after the next big thing. But now, as time slows down, we start to ask ourselves, is this really what life is all about? Is there something more fulfilling, more lasting that I've been missing all along? The answer is often simpler than we think. It's found not in having more, but in embracing less. Less clutter, less chaos, less stress, and more of what really nourishes our hearts: peace, connection, and joy. In the fast-paced world we live in, simplicity is often seen as a luxury, a rare and elusive state that only a few people can truly achieve. But simplicity is not just a luxury, it's a necessity for living a life filled with happiness and contentment. The act of simplifying our lives is not about deprivation or loss. It's about making space for the things that truly matter. It's about removing the distractions, the excess, and the noise, and focusing instead on the essentials, the relationships that sustain us, the experiences that enrich us, and the moments of stillness that allow us to reconnect with ourselves. When we embrace simplicity, we free ourselves from the endless pursuit of more, and in that freedom, we find peace. As we grow older, we're gifted with the wisdom that comes from experience. We've seen the fleeting nature of material wealth, the impermanence of external achievements, and the transient nature of success. Yet, amid all this transience, there's one thing that remains constant: the power of simplicity. Simplicity is not just about paring down our possessions or simplifying our schedules. It's about cultivating a mindset that values presence over productivity, connection over consumption, and peace over perfection. It's about recognizing that happiness is not something we can chase or achieve through external means. It's something we find by simply being. And as we grow older, we realize that this is the key to a life well lived, a life filled with meaning, purpose, and true joy. The path to simplicity is not an overnight transformation. It is a gradual shift in perspective, a process of letting go of what no longer serves us and embracing what truly nourishes us. It starts with small steps, clearing out the clutter, both physical and mental, and creating space for stillness and reflection. But as we begin this journey, we quickly realize that the benefits of simplicity extend far beyond just a tidy home or a less stressful schedule. Simplicity brings clarity. It brings peace. It brings the ability to truly enjoy the present moment without being bogged down by the past or preoccupied with the future. And in that simplicity, we find the happiness we've been searching for all along. For those of us over 60, simplicity is not just about what we remove from our lives. It's about what we choose to keep. It's about focusing on the things that truly matter, the things that bring us joy and fulfillment. It's about spending time with the people we love, nurturing our health, and making room for the experiences that bring us happiness. In a world that constantly pushes us to do more, to have more, to be more, simplicity offers a refreshing reprieve. It allows us to slow down, to reconnect with what really matters, and to savor the beauty of the present moment. Simplicity is not about abandoning ambition or giving up on dreams. It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes not from achieving more, but from being content with less. It's about finding happiness not in what we accumulate, but in what we let go of. When we simplify our lives, we make room for the things that truly bring us joy. We open our hearts to the people who matter most. We embrace the small moments of beauty that surround us, and we find peace in the stillness of our minds. As we grow older, we have the opportunity to embrace this new way of living. The hustle and bustle of our younger years can be replaced with a more mindful, intentional way of being. We can choose to focus on what truly matters: our health, our relationships, our inner peace. By embracing simplicity, we allow ourselves to live a life of deeper meaning and greater contentment. And in doing so, we unlock the true magic of happiness, the magic that comes from less. As we reach the stage of maturity in our lives, especially after moving through the rush and hustle of our younger years, we begin to realize that the things we once thought were important no longer bring true happiness. Life seems to have accumulated so much, become so complex, and often we feel trapped in a cycle that we no longer want to continue. It is at this point that simplicity becomes an alluring invitation, the path to freedom from unnecessary clutter. There is a truth that significant changes in life do not necessarily come from grand decisions or large steps. In fact, sometimes it is the small, gradual, and steady changes that bring the deepest results. The journey to simplifying life does not need to be an immediate revolution. Instead, it is a slow, gentle, yet firm process built from small steps we choose to take each day. Small decisions, seemingly insignificant, can create profound and lasting transformation, completely changing how we perceive life, how we connect with ourselves and with the world around us. Imagine waking up one morning and deciding that you will no longer carry with you all the worries, unnecessary things, and relationships that drain your energy. You start by clearing your living space, a space filled with items, mementos, or things that you no longer use. This act is not just about eliminating material possessions. It is a form of freeing your soul from the burdens that no longer fit the person you are today. Things you keep only out of habit can become barriers preventing you from enjoying the freedom and peace of life. By reducing the clutter around you, you are creating space to welcome peace within. When your living space becomes tidier, you begin to notice that your mind becomes clearer as well. The worries that once dominated your heart no longer hold the same power over you, and the trivial thoughts gradually make room for clearer, more peaceful reflections. Simplifying is not just about tidying up. It is a process of freeing the mind from stress, worries, and things that are unnecessary but have been carried for a long time. By simplifying the external, you begin creating an open space for the better things, those that truly bring happiness and fulfillment. However, simplifying does not stop at reducing material things. It is also about a shift in how we view the values in our lives. We often think that in order to live a full life, we need to have so much more money, more belongings, more success. But when we begin to simplify, we realize that less brings us freedom, peace, and the contentment we've missed all along. You can begin by experimenting with cutting out unnecessary meetings, draining relationships, and projects that you participate in just for the sake of doing enough without adding real value. Try reevaluating what really matters in life and devote your time to them. because only then can you live true to yourself without being swept away by the pressures and expectations of the world. An important part of the journey of simplifying life is learning to let go of unrealistic expectations we place on ourselves. When we are younger, we are often obsessed with the idea of a perfect life, a happy family, a successful career, luxury vacations, and a wide social circle. However, as we grow older, we realize that life isn't always perfect, and we don't need to please everyone. Instead of trying to fit into a mold that society or family expects of us, we can learn to accept and love ourselves even when we are not perfect. Simplifying is the way to let go of unnecessary pressures and make space for living a life that is ours to live, not one that others expect of us. Simplifying can also help us become more free in the decisions we make. When we no longer have to worry about trivial things, we can focus on what truly brings meaning to our lives. A long-lost friend, a peaceful morning for yourself, a good book, or simply spending time enjoying a meal with family. These things often cost nothing, require no elaborate preparation, but bring profound and lasting joy that no material possession could offer. And as we simplify our lives, we begin to create spaces for true peace and happiness. Instead of living in a world full of hustle and tension, we can find stillness in the ordinary moments. It is this simplicity that opens the door for us to find happiness in the smallest of things, like sunlight streaming through the window, birds singing in the garden, or simply the peaceful feeling of knowing that we no longer need to chase after meaningless things. A simpler life does not mean a life devoid of great joys. It means finding joy in the simplest things. When we let go of what is unnecessary, we not only free up physical space, but also release our soul from the worries, anxieties, and dissatisfaction we've been carrying. From there, life becomes lighter, happier, and more content. The journey of simplification is not an end goal, but a continuous process. We don't need to be perfect from the start. We just need patience and to continue changing step by step, day by day. Simplifying is the way to live a life with less, but receive so much more joy, more peace, and more happiness. And when we embrace simplicity, we are not just simplifying our lives, we are opening the door to embrace life in its purest, most joyful form. To truly understand how the principles of simplicity can transform a life, let's look at a real-life example. John, a man in his early 70s, had spent most of his adult life working in the corporate world. For decades, he was focused on achieving success, climbing the career ladder, and accumulating wealth. His days were filled with meetings, deadlines, and the relentless pursuit of more work, more recognition, more possessions. His home was cluttered with trophies, awards, and items he had collected over the years, all reminders of his achievements. Yet despite all of this, John felt a sense of emptiness. The constant striving had left him exhausted, and he realized that the pursuit of more had never brought him the happiness he had imagined. It was in this moment of reflection that John began to understand the core idea of simplicity, that less could truly be more. John's journey toward embracing a simpler life didn't start with a drastic change. It began with a quiet realization he didn't need all of the things that he had accumulated. One morning, after a long week of feeling overwhelmed by the pressures of his job and personal life, John sat down and asked himself, "What do I really need to feel fulfilled? What would my life look like if I didn't have to constantly strive for more?" This question set him on a path toward transformation, one that would eventually lead him to a deeper understanding of true happiness. The first step in his journey was simple. He began to declutter his home. For years, John had kept everything: the piles of papers, the mementos from his career, the items that were given to him by well-meaning friends and family. It wasn't that he had been a hoarder, but he had attached meaning to all of these possessions, believing they represented his success and status. But now, as he looked around, he realized that these things were just weighing him down. They were reminders of a past that no longer aligned with who he was or what he valued. So John started to clear out his home. He donated items he no longer needed, sold things that were taking up space, and organized the rest. It wasn't easy. There were memories attached to many of the items, but with each item he let go of, he felt lighter, freer, and more at peace. It was as though he was making space not just in his home, but in his heart and mind. As John cleared away the clutter, he began to notice changes in himself. He felt a new sense of clarity and calm. The anxiety that had been a constant companion for years started to subside. The more he let go of, the more room he created for the things that truly mattered: his relationships, his health, and his sense of purpose. He realized that all of the things he had accumulated, his material possessions, his status symbols, had been a distraction from what really brought him happiness. The pursuit of more had kept him from fully enjoying the present moment. Once his living space was simpler, John began to simplify his daily routine. For years, his days had been filled with appointments, phone calls, and constant work. He'd become accustomed to being always busy, always on the go. But now, as he looked at his life with a new perspective, he realized that this frantic pace wasn't sustainable. So he made a conscious decision to slow down. He began waking up earlier, not to check his email or prepare for the day's meetings, but to sit quietly with a cup of tea and reflect. He took walks in the park, something he had never made time for before, simply enjoying the beauty of nature. He started cooking meals at home rather than grabbing takeout or eating out, finding joy in the process of preparing food and savoring it with family. These small changes in his routine made a big difference. By eliminating the rush and the pressure to do more, John found that he had more time for the things that truly nourished him: his health, his relationships, and his inner peace. But the most profound shift came when John began to simplify his mindset. For so many years, he had defined his worth by his achievements, his career success, his financial security, and the possessions he had accumulated. But now, with his life less cluttered, he started to question those old definitions of success. He realized that true happiness wasn't about what he had achieved or what he owned. It was about how he felt inside, about the quality of his relationships and the peace he found in the present moment. Slowly, he let go of the need to constantly prove himself. He stopped comparing himself to others, stopped worrying about what people thought of him, and started to focus on what made him truly happy. He began to embrace the idea that he was enough just as he was, without needing to constantly strive for more. This shift in mindset was liberating. It allowed him to let go of the pressure he had placed on himself for so many years, and in doing so, he experienced a deep sense of peace and contentment. As John continued on his journey of simplification, he also began to simplify his relationships. For years, he had maintained a large social circle, attending events and gatherings because he felt obligated to. But now he found that these relationships often left him feeling drained rather than fulfilled. He realized that what he truly needed was deeper, more meaningful connections with a few close friends and family members. He began to spend more quality time with his loved ones, engaging in real conversations and enjoying simple activities together. He made an effort to be present in these moments, to listen with intention, and to express gratitude for the relationships he had. By focusing on the quality rather than the quantity of his relationships, John found that his social life became richer and more fulfilling. Through all of these changes, John began to see that less truly was more. By letting go of the excess, the clutter, the busyness, the constant striving, he had made space for the things that truly mattered. His life became simpler, yes, but in that simplicity, he found joy, peace, and fulfillment. He realized that he didn't need more to be happy. In fact, he needed less stress, less stuff, less worry, and more time for the things that nourished his soul. John's journey is a testament to the power of simplicity. It's easy to think that happiness comes from having more success, more possessions, more experiences. But as John discovered, The true magic of life lies in letting go. It's in the simplicity of living in the present, of focusing on what truly brings us joy, and of letting go of the distractions that prevent us from fully embracing life. Through his example, we can see that simplicity doesn't just create space in our homes, it creates space in our hearts, minds, and souls. And in that space, we find the true happiness that we've been seeking all along. John's story reminds us that the journey towards simplicity is not about giving up everything we hold dear. It's about choosing to keep what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. It's about finding peace in the present moment and embracing a life that is full, not with things, but with meaning. And in that simplicity, we find the greatest joy of all. As we look back on John's journey, as well as our own, we realize that a simple life is not something distant or unattainable. Simplicity, in truth, is not a destination. It's a continuous process, a transformation in how we think, live, and perceive the world around us. John didn't change overnight, and perhaps none of us can change everything in a single day. However, with every small step he chose, he created a life that not only made him happy, but also allowed him to feel free, peaceful, and whole. And this is an important message I want to share with all of you who are seeking a more peaceful and joyful life, especially those of you who have crossed the 60-year mark, where we often feel we are standing at significant crossroads in life. Living simply is not about giving up. It's a wise choice to let go of things that no longer serve us and focus only on what truly brings meaning to our lives. It is not a sacrifice, but a liberation, freedom from unnecessary worries, fleeting things, and unrealistic expectations we have carried for a lifetime. Living simply does not mean giving up all goals or passions. It means making those goals clearer and more attainable. It means realizing that life is not a race, but a journey. Each day we live simply is an opportunity to return to ourselves, find joy in the little moments, and enjoy all the beautiful things life offers. Simplicity opens the door for us to live more fully, without being burdened by things beyond our control, but instead focusing on what we can change, what we can create from within. As we have seen in John's story, when we let go of what we don't need, whether it is material things or emotions, we don't lose anything. On the contrary, we gain so much peace, joy, and true contentment. Everything we have accumulated throughout our lives may just be temporary items, but the peace within, the satisfaction with the present moment, and the gratitude are things that will stay with us forever. John learned that he didn't need more to be happy. In fact, he needed less stress, less stuff, less worry, and more time for what truly nourished his soul. The final advice I want to share with you is this: remember that simplicity is not a deprivation, but a richness. It is the richness of the spirit, the richness of relationships, and the richness of experiences. Learn to let go of what doesn't serve you and instead hold on to what truly brings value to your life. Don't let mindless possessions, unnecessary pressures, or fake relationships drain you. Focus on what brings you peace and true joy, and from that, you will see that life doesn't have to be complicated to be fulfilling. To do this, you don't have to change everything at once. Like John, you can start with small steps, gentle changes in habits, in mindset, and in the way you approach life. You might begin by clearing out your living space, getting rid of items you don't need, or simply changing the way you view things around you. Start by taking a few moments each day to reflect and enjoy what you have. Try to spend time with the small yet important things, like a quiet morning, a deep conversation with a loved one, or a relaxing afternoon in nature. These moments are the source of true peace and happiness. What's important is that you understand that simplicity is not something distant or difficult to achieve. It's simply a way of approaching life, a decision you can make at any time. Simplifying is about living with less, but receiving so much more joy, more peace, more love, and more appreciation for the simple things in life. When you begin doing this, you will find that life becomes lighter and easier, and you will feel the true joy of the things you had previously overlooked or not noticed. Finally, I want to remind you that life is a journey, not a destination. Don't chase after things that never end. Find joy in each step, in every simple moment you experience. Allow yourself to live fully, not in the pursuit of more, but in finding peace and happiness in the simplest things. And remember, when you live simply, you don't just make your life lighter, you also make room for more beautiful and meaningful things to come into your life. Life truly begins when we let go of complexity and embrace simplicity. At that point, we not only find happiness, but we also discover ourselves in a world full of beautiful things. And when you embrace simplicity, you embrace life in its purest and most joyful form. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the upcoming exciting videos.